Hey everybody, well it's now the second half of September, which means that the summer's almost over, and that means that the fall is rolling around, and hopefully the weather's going to be cooling off down here sooner rather than later. And for most of you out there, particularly down here in South Louisiana, summer 2023 was brutal. I mean, we had temperatures well into the hundreds. And based upon the early forecast, it's showing that it's going to stay warm for a bit. It looks like it might be a little bit of a warmer fall for a while. And then the winter forecast is calling for wet conditions, but chilly. So, well, with that being said, it's going to definitely have an impact on my schedule of what I plan on hiking for the fall 23 through the spring of 24 hiking season down here in Louisiana. So today I wanted to go ahead and talk about the trails that I have planned for hiking this year. And every year I'm going to schedule about a dozen days of hiking. So that could be individual hikes combined with some weekend backpacking trips. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I have planned for this year. As many of you know who've been following this channel since I started last year, I've been dedicated to completing the Eric Heber Kistachie Trail, which was something that my late friend created about 2 years ago and never had an opportunity to hike in its entirety. So I'm trying to get out there a little bit at a time because I'm not able to do it from start to finish nonstop, and at least section hike it. And I was able to get much of the first section of the trail completed last year. I have 1 day left to hike up in the first section, which is the Kistachie Loop. Once I'm finished with that, I want to then go ahead and proceed to section 2, which is just shy of 40 miles, and it's primarily road walking. And from there, I'm going to go ahead and start section 3, which is the Wild Azalea Trail. And that one I'm probably going to go ahead and do as a 2 to 3 day backpacking event, sometime hopefully before the end of the year. And depending upon how things go this year, I'm going to at least start the fourth and final section of the Eric Heber Kistachie Trail, which is going to be the Camp Claiborne section. And whatever I'm not able to finish this year, I'll just go ahead and finish it starting at this point around next year. Now, there are a few other trails that I plan on hiking this year, and there are 3 that I want to talk about now. One of them is about a 5-mile trail located at the Lacassine Wildlife Refuge, which is in southwest Louisiana, just outside of Lake Charles, and it's on top of a levee. And this is going to be one I definitely want to do more in the winter time for a couple of reasons. One is I want to wait until a lot of the geese migrate to that area so I can get hopefully some views of some of the birds that are forming estuaries during that time of the year. And then also too, because it's closer to the coast, it's very marshy, there's a lot of alligators, so obviously I'd rather try to avoid encountering some of that. And anytime it's about 60 degrees or below, you normally don't have to deal with them, but definitely it'll be ideal to go out in the winter time. Another one that I want to do is, this one's going to be the first one that I hike outside of the state of Louisiana that I'm going to feature on this channel. And that is the Richardson Creek Trail. It's about a 9-mile loop, and it's located inside Homachita National Forest, just east of Natchez, Mississippi. And based upon where it's located, it looks like it's similar to Kistachie National Forest in regards to the topography. You have a few rolling hills and piney woods and so forth. And so I want to go out there preferably in December before I go on the Wild Azalea Trail, just as a good prep before we go out there before the end of the year. The next one is going to be that annual hike that I want to take that is a multi-purpose trail that is basically handicapped accessible. And the one that I've selected for this year that I want to hike is along the south shore of Lake Pontchartrain, and there's different names for it if you look it up, but the one that seems to stick with most is called the Pontchartrain Linear Park. It's about a 12-mile trail, and if you go from west to east, it starts in Kenner, which is a suburb of New Orleans, and it goes across the city of Kenner, then it goes through Metairie, and then it ends right where Metairie connects with the city of New Orleans in an area that they refer to as Bucktown. And it's about 12 miles. Looking at the pictures, it seems pretty nice. Being able to walk along Lake Pontchartrain obviously is going to be a thing of beauty. So I'm going to be doing that at some point this year as well. And then there's another set of trails that I want to put into its own category because really it deserves its own. And these are in some of the state parks that we have in Louisiana. After my first year of recording videos, I noticed that some of the most popular viewed videos were those that were in the state parks. So I definitely want to continue covering more of them, and I do enjoy hiking these. There are a lot of these parks that may not have a continuous trail to hike, but you can combine it with road walking, and there's sometimes trails on other sides of the park where you could turn into a longer walk. So there are 3 that I've picked out this year that I'd really like to be able to go out and do. And the first 2 are located in Northwest Louisiana. First one out of those 2 is North Toledo Bend State Park. Now, there's been a lot of updates up there. I just received a map from the park, and up until this year, there were a couple of trails that you could hike up there. And altogether, it was probably about 4 miles or so of trails. Well, they've done a lot of work out there, and they have probably about 6 or 7 trails that they've laid out in that park. And the total amount of mileage based upon the map is over 10 miles. Now, looking at the map, I'm probably not going to hike all 10 because there's going to be a lot of switchbacking on at least a couple of them. So I'm going to make that determination later as to exactly how much of it I'm going to hike. But I know that if I do complete a loop within that trail system, it's going to be at least 6 miles. So I may do that, or I may just decide to go ahead and just cover the whole thing. We'll see. But that's going to be very interesting because they are new. So I do not believe that all these trails have been featured yet on YouTube. So I'm really excited about being able to eventually go up there and present that to you all. The next one in the same part of the state is just east of the Shreveport-Bossier area, and that's located inside Lake Bistineau State Park. They have about 10 miles of trails. Now, looking at that map, I'm definitely going to do part of it because there is a lot of switchbacking on one of those trails. And so my route that I have in mind is going to be a little under 7 miles. That's also a very popular place up there, just like North Toledo Bend State Park. And if you go back and watch some of my videos that I've done the past year, I talk about the experience that you can get at these state parks, whether you like to hike or not. A lot of these state parks have a lot to do. So I'm looking forward to being able to go up to those 2 and cover some of the amenities that are there along with the hiking trails. And that brings me to the 3rd and final trail that I have set up in the state park group, and that's way on the far eastern side of the state, just near the Mississippi state line outside the town of Franklinton, and that's the Bogachita State Park. That park has about 6.5 miles of trail. I've never been out there. It's a very popular place to go hiking. And they actually have a little beach alongside the bayou. So that's going to be pretty cool to be able to go walk up to that and cover that as well. So in regards to the overall order, again, it's going to be based upon the weather this year. If it's really wet, then I probably will just go find a couple of places like the Pontchartrain Trail that I know is going to be dry because it has a surface to it. I may have to skip around with the Kistachie Trail and go on the road walking section. I'm just going to have to improvise because, as we know down here in Louisiana, you never know what you're going to get weather-wise. But I am very excited about starting year 2 of this channel. I've had a lot of great feedback in my first year of covering trails on this channel. And so this year ought to be just as exciting, if not more, than what I was able to provide you last year. But definitely, it's going to be another exciting year, regardless of the weather. We're going to find a way to get most of these trails in. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so. And I'm also available on other social media platforms, which are listed at the end of this video. So you're welcome to follow me off of those as well. Also, a couple of other things that will be a little new this year. For one, bringing back Hazel, my chocolate lab pup. She's full grown now. I brought her out on a couple of short hikes earlier this year, so she's raring to go. I had featured Jay, my plot hound, much of last fall, but unfortunately she had just a little health issue she had to deal with for a while, so we took her off trail. But she's going to be coming back. She's definitely going to be more towards the shorter hikes now that she's starting to get up there in age. And I've had a few friends that have been following me over the past year on this channel that really enjoy watching the videos, and they want to come out and hiking with me too this year. So you're probably going to see a few others that are going to be with me along the way this year as I go out to some of these places that I've announced in this video today. So it should be a lot of fun. I always encourage you to send me a message via Facebook if you want to make some comments or you have some questions on anything. But as time goes on, I'm going to continue to be dedicated to showing different types of trails in Louisiana, both existing and potentially new trails. And the reason why I bring that up is if you've been following me over the past year, and particularly this summer, I featured a couple of videos on some trails on developing. One of them is a statewide hiking trail across the state that's going to be over 300 miles called the Bayou State Trail. And we just started another project that we're hoping to be able to get approved by the elected officials in West Feliciana Parish, where we can combine some of the trails that are up in that area in the Tunica Hills region. So we're going to be doing that in the future, where we want to promote more long distance hiking. So that's one of the reasons why I've been pushing so hard, not only as a tribute to Eric, but to be able to take the next step up here in regards to promoting hiking in Louisiana, instead of just covering these 4 to 7 mile trails that we have across the state. I want to be able to introduce the concept of more of a long distance hike, whether it be a section hike or, you know, a hike that lasts you a couple of weeks. And the Eric Heber Kistachie Trail definitely falls into that category. So we're definitely going to be covering a lot of Kistachie this year, plus these other ones that I have listed as well. And whatever we don't get to this year, obviously I'm going to put it high on my list to complete starting in the fall of next year. Thanks again for watching me over the past year, and I hope to see a lot of you commenting and checking me out this year on the second year of Cajun Hikes. Until then, I will see you again soon, hopefully, on another Louisiana trail.